Welcome back to The Explainer. You know that feeling when you just look around your house, or honestly, even just your phone's camera roll, and feel completely suffocated by all your stuff? Well, today we're unpacking a truly radical concept from ancient philosophy that is going to completely flip how you view your closet, your bank account, and believe it or not, your own mind. We are diving deep into the profound philosophy of aparigraha. The absolute core idea in our source material is that holding on to things we don't actually need is essentially a form of unintentional theft. Let's explore the depths of aparigraha together, starting with the foundational definition.
So what exactly are we talking about here? The text fundamentally links aparigraha, which is the principle of non-possessing or non-hoarding, directly to asteya, meaning non-stealing. Now, it's a bit of a tough pill to swallow, but the source makes this really fascinating argument. Even if you didn't go out and rob a bank or physically steal an item, keeping it when it's utterly unnecessary makes it functionally equivalent to stolen property. Why? Well, because you're hoarding resources that belong to the broader collective ecosystem of humanity. You're effectively keeping those resources from someone who might genuinely need them just to survive.
And that brings us to this pretty heavy realization. Hoarding the unnecessary is akin to theft. Wow, right? I mean, we often operate from this deep-seated mindset of scarcity. We lack faith that nature, or a higher power, is going to provide for our daily needs. So what do? We stockpile. We pack our pantries to the brim. We fill up our garages. But the text points out this kind of divine law of daily provision, the idea that nature produces exactly what is needed for humanity day by day. If we truly trusted that law, we wouldn't feel this desperate, frantic urge to hoard out of fear for tomorrow. Now, as we can see here, this lack of faith has stark, real-world consequences. We see incredible excess in the homes of the wealthy, where completely unneeded items just gather dust and eventually rot. And directly tied to this uneven distribution, we see marginalized communities wandering, starving, and freezing in the cold. The text really doesn't mince words about this. The extreme deprivation of the many is directly tied to the unnecessary hoarding by the few. The argument is that if everyone just took only what they needed, no one would ever face shortages. This uneven distribution traps everyone in what we can essentially call the illusion of contentment. You'd naturally assume that hoarding and gathering wealth makes people happy, right? But the text points out a tragic irony here. Millionaires are constantly striving for more. They never actually hit a finish line of satisfaction. Meanwhile, the poor naturally desire to escape poverty and become wealthy themselves. So neither group actually finds true peace in this cycle. The profound solution offered by the source is that the wealthy absolutely have to take the very first step. They need to initiate the reduction of their extreme hoarding so the marginalized can simply get enough to survive. Only then can both sides finally learn the lesson of true contentment. Okay, so what's the absolute extreme endpoint of this whole philosophy? Well, it's a pretty intense ideal. It envisions a person living entirely free, unclothed in mind and action, literally like a bird in the sky. No accumulated food, no property, relying entirely on whatever Providence provides each and every day. It's a beautiful, poetic image of absolute trust. But let's be real. The author of the text readily acknowledges that this is an extremely rare state, something achieved only by the most devout, wandering ascetics. For the rest of us living in the real world, we need a slightly more practical approach. So let's walk through this practical framework for regular folks, what the text calls the practical truth seekers. The source offers a really simple, progressive daily approach. Step 1, audit your daily needs. Just ask yourself, do I honestly need this today? Step 2, progressively reduce your possessions. It's not about tossing everything you own into a dumpster tomorrow. It's a gradual, intentional downsizing based on intense self-reflection. And step 3, as you do this, watch as your true happiness, your real satisfaction, and your capacity to serve others actively increases. You are quite literally making physical and mental room for joy. To actually do this, though, requires a total paradigm shift. Look at this definition. True civilization is not the increase of possessions, but their voluntary reduction. Think about how completely upside down that is compared to modern society. We are constantly fed the narrative that progress means bigger houses, accumulating more tech, expanding our material footprint. But this philosophy forcefully argues the exact opposite. Real societal progress, true culture, and even pure physical health are found in consciously limiting our desires, not feeding them endlessly. Now, let's just pause right here for a second. Are physical objects the only possessions? I want you to really chew on this as we move forward. Because, it's super easy to donate a few old sweaters or clean out the garage and pat ourselves on the back feeling like we've totally mastered aparigraha. But does this ancient philosophy actually stop at the physical stuff sitting in our living rooms? Well, prepare to have your perspective completely shifted. The text argues that the physical body itself is a possession. Yes, the actual skin and bones you are inhabiting right now. We only hold on to our physical bodies out of a lingering desire for worldly enjoyment. The source frames the physical body as basically an outer garment, an artificial covering we put on and maintain strictly because we still want to consume, experience, and possess the material world around us.
To break this down, the text uses a really fascinating metaphor. Think of the soul as omnipresent, boundless, and totally infinite. By contrast, the physical body is simply a restrictive cage. The source poses a profound question. If the soul is truly everywhere, why should it remain locked inside the physical cage of the body? The logic follows that once the desire for worldly enjoyment is completely extinguished, the absolute need to maintain this physical cage just disappears.
But hey, we are currently living in these bodies, right? So what exactly are we supposed to do with them while we are here? The text provides a really powerful, transformative answer to that. The true food of the physical body must become pure service to others. Everything we do, eating, drinking, sleeping, sitting around, waking up, none of it should be for selfish enjoyment anymore. Instead, all of these normal human functions must be completely repurposed as fuel for service. We maintain the body strictly so it has the energy to serve humanity. And according to the text, that is how you stop hoarding your own physical existence. Okay, so we've talked about the physical stuff in our homes, and we've talked about our physical bodies. Let's peel back the final, deepest layer of the onion here. What about the thoughts we keep? Is your mind cluttered like a messy garage? Because this is where the concept of aparigraha becomes incredibly intimate and personal. And this brings us right to the very real danger of mental hoarding. The text argues that retaining unnecessary information is a highly, highly dangerous form of hoarding. We stuff our brains with useless knowledge, endless trivia, random facts, constant digital noise. If these thoughts don't connect us to ultimate truth or guide us in a meaningful direction, they are just mental clutter. And even worse, this hoarded knowledge breeds arrogance, turns our brains to mush, increases our mental dissatisfaction, and leaves us feeling completely empty inside. Which leads us to this wild philosophical claim. The knowledge that turns us away from truth is actually ignorance. The text points directly to the 13th chapter of the Gita to support this idea. We might have fancy degrees, we might absorb breaking news every single hour, but if that knowledge doesn't lead us toward truth and selfless service, it is labeled as pure ignorance. Stuffing our heads with irrelevant facts just drains our mental energy, makes the mind spin needlessly, and ultimately creates profound spiritual emptiness. Now, it is so easy to misinterpret all this letting go as a literal call to just do nothing, to just sit on the couch. But empty inaction, like idleness and laziness, is the exact opposite of the goal here. The true objective is sattvic action, which means pure, truth-seeking service. Giving up physical and mental possessions absolutely does not mean being lazy. In fact, a life of true service literally cannot be inactive for even a single moment. Think about it. When you finally stop expending all your precious, limited energy on buying stuff, maintaining your physical desires, and hoarding useless thoughts, what happens? All that trapped energy is suddenly freed up. You become intensely, powerfully active in the right direction. You gain the clarity and the absolute vitality to make every single moment an opportunity for focused, meaningful action in service to the world. So as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. What unnecessary possessions, whether we're talking physical objects, bodily attachments, or just chaotic mental clutter, are you holding on to today? I challenge you to take a real honest audit of your life this week. Look around your room and look deeply inside your mind. What can you voluntarily reduce right now to make more space for truth, for joy, and for service? Thank you so much for joining me on this, and I hope this deep dive into aparigraha empowers you to start clearing out the clutter so you can experience some true freedom. Catch you next time.